as some people in my comments are ready and raring to tell me I'm not exactly the best guitarist in the world. And to be clear, I'm not fishing for compliments. I'm absolutely a competent guitarist. I mean, I book a fair number of gigs every year, but we all have room for improvement. I really want to be a better guitarist, but between this channel, freelance work, other projects, and wanting to spend time with my friends and family, I don't give myself as much dedicated, focused practice time as I would like to. So let's try to change that. Welcome to Get Offset. My name is Emily and I'm really proud of you. Pickup Music is sponsoring this video, but thoughts and opinions are all mine. If you're a guitarist on the internet, you've absolutely seen ads for Pickup Music. I've been curious about their programs for a while now, so when they emailed me and asked if I'd like to try out the website and do a video, I said yes with very little hesitation. So before getting too far into my own experience, I want to explain why Pickup Music appealed to me in the first place. I actually haven't had structured guitar lessons since I was a teenager. That doesn't mean I've plateaued. I'm a better player now than I was back then. But since my teenage years, most of my learning has come from books and YouTube tutorials. I've tried a few other subscription-based websites, but I found many of those were focused on learning specific songs or a few licks that you can move around in specific styles, especially specific styles, but nothing truly felt foundational. Even now, the bulk of the guitar education I make time for is learning specific songs, often for one-off gigs, so I tend to forget a lot of that stuff pretty quickly because I'm not constantly using it. And worst of all, I'm not learning the why of any of it. Yeah, I can sit down and learn Albert Lee's solo and 2 More Bottles of Wine by Emmylou Harris, but unless I try to break it down myself, I'm not any closer to why, the why behind it. It makes me feel less like a musician and more like a parrot. Pickup Music advertises itself as, quote, the most structured approach to learning guitar, which is, really appealing to me. So let's get to the heart of this video and talk about the different elements of Pickup Music and how I feel about them. First up, let's talk about the core curriculum. Since I wanted structure and, more specifically, foundational lessons, I decided to focus on Pickup Music's core curriculum. I can't find it now for a screenshot, but I remember answering a few questions about my own skill level. I believe some of those questions were things like, are you comfortable improvising guitar solos? And based on my own responses, I ultimately chose to begin with the intermediate program. These core curriculum programs are divided into different grades, as they call them. For my program, grade 1 was called Intro to the Lead and featured 7 lessons with the expectation you do 1 lesson per day. Each lesson starts with an explanation of what you're going to be learning, an exercise to reinforce that lesson, a few licks which usually start out pretty easy and then add in more flourishes, and a little jam session at the end. Honestly, I was a little concerned that this level would be a bit too basic for me, and to be clear, a lot of it was. I skipped over some things, but it still felt like a good idea to reinforce other things that I hadn't really thought about in a while. For example, neo soul is pretty popular among guitarists right now, but it's not something I've dabbled in. So it was really cool to have a few lessons that featured those new things. Next, let's talk about their performances. At the end of each grade, there are a few performances, which are playthroughs of songs that put the lessons you've learned into some context. Here's a screenshot of one from the Intro to Lead called Frozen Pinecone, as performed by Ariana Powell. You can see it highlights the neo-soul genre at the top, and in the description it tells you exactly which things you learned that you can expect to put into practice while learning the song. In this case, it's using the major pentatonic scale, bends, slides, and pull-offs. You can download a PDF of the tab, which I'll talk about in a bit, but you also get a lesson that reinforces the techniques you'll need, detailed tutorials showing you how to play the different licks, and a playthrough at the end. Some of these performances are very clearly based on popular songs, and that adds a little bit of familiarity, and it certainly makes learning the songs more attractive and fun. One other thing you can do, which I honestly didn't do, is upload a video of yourself performing these songs. Your performance will then be reviewed by someone at Pickup Music who will give you personalized feedback. That's extremely rare outside of one-on-one lessons, and it's great that they include this feature. It's not always easy to hear your own mistakes, especially if your ear isn't developed, and this can keep you from developing bad habits before they become ingrained. And that leads me to talking about the downloadables. One of the coolest things Pickup Music offers, in my opinion, is in the upper right-hand corner of any lesson. You can click these 3 dots to download an audio backing track, download PDFs with notation, in this case, the scale that's being covered and the licks that are being taught, and more. As I hinted at before, you'll also be able to do this for the end of grade performances. I highly recommend downloading everything and saving them to a folder on your computer. PDFs are my preferred way to follow along with these lessons in pickup music, but even if that's not your style, downloading things makes it so you can go back and review what you learned at any time, even if you need to pause your subscription. Which is really great because some of the other programs I've used don't allow you to do that. It honestly wouldn't be a bad idea to print out these lessons and keep them in a binder somewhere either. It's been 20 years since I was taking formal lessons, and I still revisit some of those hard copies from those classes occasionally. But I'm staring at screens all day, so of course I want to look at actual paper sometimes. I really like that you can download these PDFs and keep them forever. I'm sure Pickup Music makes it a primary goal to reduce churn, which is to say I imagine they're doing whatever they can to keep people subscribed for as long as possible, but it's really nice to see a company say, hey, this is yours now, whether you're still paying us or not. My only complaint, and this is honestly maybe across Pickup Music as a whole, my only complaint has a little to do with my own vision issues, but I find that the tablature is actually a little too tiny for standard sized paper, and I think that the numbers in the tab are too small, which can make it really hard to read. I think it would be better if like the lines behind the tab were a little bit more opaque, a little bit like a fainter, so that the numbers would pop out more. But yeah, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's having that issue, but I'm sure a lot of people don't, so take with that what you will. Next, I want to talk about the different visualizations. Something I enjoyed about Pickup Music was how they offered a few different ways to learn the material in their lessons. The PDFs, as I mentioned, were my favorite way to follow along, but they also had videos which often showcased lessons with 2 different visualizations. The first one here has a straight-on view and an overhead view, so you can see the fretboard from the player's perspective. They really like that overhead view, and it's not bad. This other screenshot has the overhead view and a tab at the bottom that scrolls along with the instructors playing. It's not a transformative thing, but it is thoughtful and appreciated. I know that there are different ways that other programs may like to visualize a fretboard. Some have kind of like that Guitar Hero scrolly thing. But honestly, for me personally, nothing will beat just watching a person's fingers as they play guitar. I feel like that is the best thing that can go along with the tablature. The next thing I want to talk about is the different styles you can cover in Pickup Music. A little bit ago, I mentioned that something I enjoyed about Pickup Music was being encouraged to try out new genres like neo-soul. It's easy for all of us, myself included obviously, to focus on our core genres when we practice. For me, that's like rock and country. And while there's nothing wrong with dedicating yourself to a style or two, it means we're often missing out on a world of potential inspiration. The learning pathways cover a decent range of styles, including rock, blues, neo-soul, folk, and funk. Even though I'm honestly unlikely to ever really dig into some of those featured genres, I absolutely feel like a better guitarist for spending even just a little bit of time learning about them. Outside of the core curriculum pathways, Pickup Music has more in-depth classes dedicated to various genres, many of which seem to have experts in those styles at the helm. For example, Daniel Donato teaches a country music course, and Daniel is a legit country guitarist with his own successful career. I should point out that it's not unique to Pickup Music to have experts in their field showcasing different styles. Any educational program should have that, but it is worth mentioning. These classes, like Daniel Donato's, seem pretty in-depth as well. Like with the core curriculum, the country learning pathway features multiple grades and lessons. I counted over 40 days worth of lessons, though you could probably do a few of those in the same day. Regardless, it'll keep you busy for a while. Like with those core learning pathways, the genre pathways have end-of-lesson performances where you can actually upload your own performance for feedback. I will say that for some of those end-of-lesson performances or end-of-grade performances, you just got the tab and a playthrough. You didn't always get Daniel or somebody sitting you down explaining every single part of the riffs or the solo or the song. But personally, I think that by the time you get into those secondary classes, hopefully you have a better ear and a better eye and don't really need I don't want to say hand-holding because that's kind of negative, but for lack of a better word, hand-holding you through the different sections. I actually, now that I've done this video, I would really like to take the time to go through Daniel's country course next, which brings me to continued education. I'm gonna be honest, some of the lessons in the intermediate learning pathway were pretty surface level, and that seems to be by design. That pathway was a solid exposure to different elements of music and guitar, but it's not all pickup music has available. I think I talked about using the Dorian mode earlier in one of the soloing lessons, but I found myself wanting more information on what that mode is, how to use it, and things like that. So I was pleased to see that Pickup Music has an entire article dedicated to Dorian mode, which has way more information about the theory behind it, which chords it sounds best with, and examples of its uses within a musical context. I'm pretty sure that article is free for anyone on the internet to read, which is really solid content marketing. In fact, if you Google Dorian mode guitar, the Pickup Music article is a top result. But those blog posts aren't the only way to continue your education within pickup music. I've already talked about how pickup music has those genre pathways, but they also have dedicated pathways for soloing, theory, and more, all of which seem to go well beyond those core curriculum pathways. Frankly, I tried really hard to find more negatives to include in this video, but to be completely honest, pickup music seems genuinely very well thought out, and I'm willing to bet that if you put in the work, you'll see some solid results, probably more quickly than you would think. Of course, finding time to put in the work will likely remain a struggle for me and a lot of folks for that matter, but pickup music makes it feel more manageable because you can really bang out some of these lessons in like 15 to 30 minutes, and they feel important, they feel helpful, they feel like you're gaining something from them instead of just kind of mindlessly noodling with the 15 minutes you have to play guitar that day, which is fun, but won't advance you. If you liked this video, check out the one on the screen, which YouTube has chosen just for you. Thanks for watching, thanks for understanding. Until next time, my name is Emily. Goodbye.